My name's Calvin Waite, and I trade Bitcoin and cryptocurrency for a living.
Lately, everybody's favorite coin has been Link, so I figure it would be really interesting to start talking about where we've come from, where we could be going, and so I've pulled up Link. This is on Bittrex Exchange. Link's only been on there since right before 2020, so we don't have a ton of information to go off of. And so as we kind of look at this, the weekly chart doesn't show us hardly anything. We barely started getting our 21-week moving average moving in. So far it's hit a couple of points of support, and now it's getting pretty vertical. So we'll just switch over to the daily and I'll show you what I'm seeing. So far we haven't even entered any kind of a red zone. The coin is too new. It didn't have all the trends until June, and at that point all the trends were already accelerating, and the price action was above the 50, the 100, and the 200. So all we can really look at when a coin is new, there's a lot of hype, and it kind of defies all logic and rules sometimes, because these things get driven purely by emotion, but still they do follow some rules. So back here in March, when we had kind of our first kind of peak, we dropped back down. Our low was obviously higher than our other low, so this was a kind of our first indicator that this coin had some legs on it. When we hit a double top here, this is when I start drawing lines. When I see two significant points, that's when we start putting lines on our chart to see how investors are going to behave when we start bumping up against some of these trends. As we moved into this next section, I immediately saw these 3 points here. When you have 3 points in a perfect line and they all touch exactly, this becomes a long-term support. So we will be watching this one for the next couple of years to see how the price reacts and interacts with this. And the next thing that I'm looking at is that, see how we've finally breached, like we retested this line, and a week later we started fighting with it and we rode it for 4 days. Then when we had this breakout, this was essentially our indication that we were on the move. So we headed up, and what we really want to see is a good solid move that kind of establishes a new point in investors' minds, because investing is pure psychological. It's kind of a what will everyone else do, and can we get in front of that? So we have this psychological point here at like 94,000 satoshis, something like that. And when we came back down, we found a new bottom a little bit shy of our base. Often we like to retest our base, but I think we had so much excitement and exuberance in this move here that we didn't give ourselves a chance to really bounce off of support and solidify this as support. But as we've moved up and created a new high, this point definitely became substantial. So I just put this line here to kind of give us an indication of how far we might move, or where the direction might be going. So now we have a little bit of structure. We have our slow growth line. We have our increased support line. We have all of our averages moving. So interesting that where we didn't have the support here to bounce off of and move, investors saw the 50-day moving average as the line to bounce support off of. So when you see a move where you've made a substantial move, you've broken a new high, and investors decided that 50-week moving average was going to be important, this will be most likely important as we move up. So here's the question. To determine kind of where we're headed from here, the question is, obviously we didn't retrace back and create a good solid handoff between this point. So the question is will we need to do that before we continue? The problem with this is that our 50-week moving average is already higher than this point. That can be a good and a bad thing. I mean, on the good side, that means that if investors get scared and they let it fall through the 50, we still have the 95,000 Satoshi line to fall to, and we could grab support there. But anytime you see, so you have to back up and remember that investing is an emotional game. So as we were starting to pull back here, this is where investors start getting fearful. They start getting scared, and especially when you see a big drop, people start exiting and they start getting scared. So when we pulled back here, this was a good fear bar. This was a good fear bar. But normally when you get a couple of fear bars in a row, you usually accelerate, or especially on new coins with very little support, you can fall very quickly and you can drop through any handoffs and you can really start getting yourself into trouble. The fact that we have fought back through and established another kind of point right here, it puts this a little bit in limbo. We don't know whether it's going up or down because the fear didn't take over so much to create a new solid drop point, but the exuberance wasn't strong enough to overtake our high and create a new high. So now we're kind of in this in-between zone. But I'll tell you what to look for. And this is how I trade these types of things. If a coin has a strong run up and we end up going sideways for a decent amount of time, it depends on the acceleration. I mean, if the resistance accelerates faster than the support does, that can play a hand. But the longer we stay flat, if we can stay in kind of a flat neutral zone, this becomes more and more bullish. And the reason why is because it's kind of the law where every action has some kind of a opposite reaction. And so as we make a move, it's not always an equal reaction, but there's always a reaction. If we go up strong, there's usually a pushback that's fairly strong. And it's not equal, but it exists. So when we have a strong push like this was a very strong move. I mean, to put this into perspective, we climbed 175% in a matter of 3 weeks, 20 bars. So that's a very powerful move. A move like this, it would be no problem for us to see a 50% retracement. And a 50% retracement would put us, yeah, I mean, we'd have definitely seen our the tip of our support here if we'd have had a retracement like that. And the fact that nobody's letting this go, and if we can stabilize, it sells the bull scenario to investors. They're like, man, we had an awesome rise, and you know what? We're just floating. Like, I'm not scared. I'm not worried. I'm willing to put more money into this. So it becomes a stronger emotional run. When things start moving down, that's when you get your first indicators that are like, oh, overbought or oversold. And then you get another indicators of, oh, the average is flattened out or it's declining. But when all of that passes and we're still floating up here, it's only a matter of time. So how do you trade something like this? Well, I know people are probably drawing triangles as we speak, but I would essentially call this a no trade zone until the market makes its decision. But this is not a bad thing. The fact that we made this move instead of just coming straight down and kind of bleeding out is powerful. So I'll give you the opposite scenario, because Cardano had a beautiful run recently, and look what it has done over the last couple of almost a month or two by now. Let's see how it had this really powerful. We had this kind of spring. We did this kind of sideways action. It sold investors that the bullish scenario was going to happen. We moved up really strong. We even made a new all-time high, a big long fear bar, and we slowly drifted. We kind of got out of our excitement zone, this trading zone, and we slowly started selling investors on the idea that nah, we're not going to stay up here. We're gonna fall back down. Of course, here we've now officially had our handoff between this point, so there could be a little strength, but because this point was so far below this point, it's going to be a little hard to sell investors that we're going to do a V-shaped recovery. But this is the action that is that kind of slow draining. If we start seeing that on Link, then that could spell a little more trouble for us. So as of now, being flat, seeing bottoms kind of moving upward, any move below this point will start selling people on the idea that the bullish scenario is going to pan out. But as long as we stay in this range for as long as we can, people will start getting excited and we'll see our next move up. So anyway, I hope that helps y'all. See you on the next one.
Hey, look at that. You made it through another video. If you appreciated anything I said, I would really like it if you could give me a thumbs up or subscribe to the channel. If I can grow the channel a little bit more, I'd love to start doing giveaways and make things a little bit more fun around here.